Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Karen Barton, and I'm the training manager here at National MI. We'd like to kick off our webinar today, and Bill Kennedy, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
You got it. Thank you, Karen. Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for dialing in. We really appreciate it. My name is, Karen said, is Bill Kennedy. I'm a representative for National MI in upstate New York, calling you right now from beautiful Binghamton, New York. And you're about to listen to a look ahead of social media trends with Kristen Messerly. And I can tell you firsthand, Kristen does a great job. I've seen her live and I've watched her webinars on our site, and you're in for a treat. Kristen is a national speaker on the topic of business growth and multicultural consumers. She's the founder of Cultural Outreach, and she's the managing editor of Mortgage Women magazine, so she's very accomplished. And we appreciate you working with us through our national mortgage insurance platform. I use it a lot in my day, and I hope you find it helpful. In addition to our webinars and online training, I hope you're checking out our pricing. And through our new Rate GPS risk-based pricing product, we have been very competitive. So National MI, we offer you the best terms to cover your borrowers and yourselves. We have very competitive pricing, and we have the best training. So you've landed in a great place. I appreciate your time. And with that, Kristen, I'm going to send it back to you.
Great, thank you so much. And Sarah and I are so excited to present to you on this topic. I'm going to turn on my video too. So we have Sarah she's calling in from LA. I'm in Miami. But Sarah and I have been working on quite a bit related to just gathering research on what is best in terms of increasing sales through social media and improving your personal brand. We've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years now with Cultural Outreach, and Sarah joined us over the last year and is an expert on social media. So I am going to have her present most of the content here, but I wanted to introduce the topic and encourage everyone to submit your questions as you have them. We actually have so much content on this webinar that there's no chance that you're going to be able to digest everything that we talked through, but you're going to have access to this PDF so that you can, or the PowerPoint deck, so you can review this later and follow up with us if you have questions later. But definitely go ahead and put your questions in the question box as they come up, and then we'll try to address those as they come up, or we'll follow up after the webinar as well. But I want to start by introducing a little bit about Cultural Outreach and the kind of content that we're providing through National MI. We have a YouTube channel. If you go check out Cultural Outreach, we launched this pretty recently, as well as our Instagram account recently through Cultural Outreach, both of which are places where we're hosting a lot of the interviews that we do with National MI. We interview people and publish a lot of content on how to improve your social media presence and how to reach young and diverse buyers. So if you follow us there, you'll get a lot of information. But the big resource I want to announce is discoverim3.com. We have National MI and Cultural Outreach have been providing content on a monthly basis for the last 3 years now, I think, and or at least we're going on 3 years, and it's lots of great content, but we are just now launching a brand to be able to host all of that. So if you go to the Discover M3 website, subscribe to our newsletter, and it's a monthly newsletter that will update you on our fresh content. That includes tutorials and, like I said, interviews with experts in the industry, lots of really useful stuff for you to share with with everyone on your team and for you guys to enjoy. So one of our most recent interviews was with Amy Susing, who's the VP of Development of Rebuilding Together. We're spotlighting Rebuilding Together as a really interesting and great nonprofit to support either as a company, something that you're volunteering with, or just supporting nationally. It's very on brand, and we're trying to kind of help you guys have the tools and resources available to be able to put into action a lot of the things that we're talking about. So we're always talking about social impact and how you can build your brand and your personal and corporate brands through being involved in your community. And so this is one way to do that. So today, I'm gonna have Sarah lead us through a conversation around what are some of the top trends related to social media that we're going to expect in 2019. Some of this may be review, but hopefully a lot of it is new information. It's definitely some really interesting trends that Sarah and I have been talking about, and some specific strategies you can use to put those into practice. So I won't take any more time, Sarah. I want to pass this over to you, and then we'll pause between sections to address any questions. So I'll let you take it from here. Thanks, Sarah.
Great. Thanks, Kristen. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Karen, for having me today. As Kristen mentioned, there's a lot going on in 2019. Social media is always changing, and we had a lot of fun doing the research for this, just because there's always new fun things to learn and new apps to try. So I hope you guys enjoyed as much as we have. So I'll get going. So I'm just going to do a little bit of an introduction about kind of like where social media is headed, and what you can expect and how you can kind of like leverage your attitude and technology to be the best that you can in 2019. So as you know, social media is an ever-changing marketplace. Everything's always changing. There's always new technology. So knowing the right tools and your target audience are really important in making sure that you can stay ahead of the game in social media and your marketing strategy. So what we know now is not something that's always going to work forever. You know, as I mentioned, social media is always changing. I don't know if you guys can remember when Twitter had a 140 character limit, and that was like such a big deal when it got changed. You were able to only like things on Facebook, and now you can do all sorts of things. Things are always changing, and they're changing in ways that are going to help you engage with your consumer a lot better, to build your brand, to talk about your brand. So these things aren't always just like fun additions or novelty changes. We're trying to look at them and figure out ways that you can really utilize the changes and updates to help your business grow. This is the Twitter thing that I mentioned. I just thought this was kind of funny because Steve Martin was clearly not on board with the expanding the character limit on Twitter. He felt like you could get what you needed in 140 characters, but I think, needless to say, growth is always great, and it's great when we can use these platforms to really push our product and include images and graphics and, you know, link to other sources and things like that. So just a little humor for the morning. So 1 million new people joined social networks every day in 2017, and that number is always growing. In 2018, there were even more people. So everyone is online of all ages at this point. So this is really something that I don't think we need to tell you that you need to be on social media, but if you're not, and if you're kind of like just starting to get into it, now is the time. It's the new marketplace for sure. By 2020, we're going to see an increase in the dominance of Instagram, especially even among the older generations. So think about that when you're trying to figure out which platforms you want to start with. So that was just a little quick intro, but I'm going to jump right into the next-gen strategies with technology and ideas. Kristen, did you want to kind of like overview the section before I jump into some specifics?
Kristen, we can't hear you. Are you still on mute?
Oh, there we go. I was on mute.
Thanks.
So, yeah, I don't want to take up more time. I want us to jump into the next gen strategies, but I did want to mention that, you know, Sarah and I and everyone at Cultural Outreach work a lot with people and companies on making changes to our behavior as a company or organization and on an individual level. And I think a lot of times it requires that any kind of change of behavior requires us feeling very uncomfortable. And I think one of the best ways to think about it is kind of like when we're thinking about going to the gym or making any kind of new habit change, it's something that we have to expect is not going to feel great. But if you incentivize yourself in some way or give yourself some kind of really small goals along the way, don't try to bite off the whole motion, as they say. Take small steps. So as you look at all of this, don't try to implement everything. Just take a piece of it and take small steps towards meeting that goal. So it'll feel uncomfortable at first, but you'll start seeing results, I promise. So Sarah, I'll let you take it back.
Great. Okay, so I just wanted to jump into the biggest thing. I think it's the most important when it comes to social media, kind of on a generic base level, but video is the most important element that you can start implementing into your strategy if you haven't already. A lot of marketing research experts are saying that video is going to be the main source of search engines even in the future. People would rather watch a video on something than read a blog or read an article. Not to say that long form content is going to be obsolete, because it still has a lot of value, but in terms of engaging with your customers and really broadening your reach and kind of like hooking new customers and networks, video is really important. 1 in 3 social video viewers watch videos from businesses and brands every month. So we actually have a webinar coming up in February that's completely focused on video and video production. But start thinking about ways that you can incorporate video into your daily posts. If you were going to post something on Instagram or Facebook, maybe think about a way you can transition that into a video instead of an image, just to increase that engagement and make it more dynamic. And that makes it a lot more authentic for viewers and consumers to see you talking and interacting as opposed to just posting something. So here's a couple of tips to keep your videos fresh if you feel a little bit nervous about creating video content. Remember that everyone is on mobile these days, so you want to try to make your videos mobile friendly, and that means taking them in the vertical format like this, not like this. You can see that, because people are going to be watching them on their phone. So mobile friendly, regular optimized scheduling. So just try to be regular about your posts. Maybe you're going to post 1 video a week on Fridays, kind of checking in for the week, or sharing a favorite tip on whatever it is that you're passionate about. Keeping it really authentic and unique and you, because people want to hear what you have to say, and you're the person that they're trying to connect with. So just be yourself. You don't have to write a script necessarily or try to make it too fancy. Video is all about being authentic. And then that leads me into the time.
I want to pause real quick. I think you're just talking about the time. Okay. Yeah, because I wanted to mention that you don't have to have a high production value here. This is something that you can do very easily on the go. You want to try to have a pretty clean background and clear sound, but otherwise it can be very simple, and just it can be something you're doing from your phone. And something that we've found really effective with a lot of loan officers is people just responding to common questions. So a common question, it might be around how to build credit, or what is a credit score. You can create really quick videos that are on those topics. So those are just a few examples.
Yeah, those are really great ideas. And then keep them within the 30-second to 1-minute range. People start to kind of fall off after that long, unless you're doing kind of a longer form interview session. Try to keep them short. You can generally get in what you need to say in that time. And then live video, Kristen kind of just talked about this, but this is when you're just kind of in the moment. You're at an open house or you're at a workshop and you're taking a video on your phone, or you're in your home and you're creating one of those videos like a question and answer. But with the phone technology that we have these days and the ability to just kind of, use your surroundings, you can make videos look really professional without having to get a production team or a video camera. That's what these smartphones are so great at now. So you can kind of have your own little production studio in your own phone, which is great. And people understand that live video is spontaneous. They know that you're taking this on your phone, and they don't expect it to be, like Hollywood quality. So that's kind of, I think, one of the benefits of utilizing these streaming technologies within the apps, is that people know that it's supposed to be real, and that's kind of what they want. They don't want the inauthentic, super highly produced content that may or may not be, genuine. So that will lead me into Instagram Stories and IGTV. Of all of the streaming services, we think that Instagram and IGTV are kind of at the top. So just a quick little clarification, Instagram Stories is the feature within the Instagram app that you can take quick little 15-second video clips and share them with everybody. And they're in the moment, they last for 24 hours, and people can watch them. Instagram TV is a newer feature on Instagram. Did I explain that here? I'll go into that next, where it is more like a YouTube channel for Instagram, and people can subscribe and you can post longer content. So if you want to have a series or something like that, it's another great way to kind of establish your brand in the video form. So when you have Instagram TV, it will notify people with a very kind of bright color, so people will always be aware that you're creating new content, which makes it really great and easy to engage with your audience. And then this is just something that I mentioned before. You can do longer form videos as opposed to the 15 seconds on Instagram Stories. And then again, people just are really into watching videos these days, and they want to hear what you have to say. You can infuse your voice into this a lot easier than if you're writing, and it's just also really fun. So I'm going to kind of go over how to get into Instagram TV. Kristen, do you think this is something that I should go into detail? This is kind of like a how-to if people don't know how to get started and if they want to.
Yeah, I think let's let people follow this after. And a lot of this is intuitive. When you start doing it, you'll figure it out, and it'll lead you through that. But the video is such an important part of a social media strategy. I want to make sure we emphasize that. Can you share with the audience, is video generally for anyone of all ages, or what's the target demographic, and what's the target demographic for IGTV?
Yeah, I think a lot of times with the newer technology, not that video is new, but video on mobile and on social media is newer. So people think that it's only for the millennials or the Gen Zers, but research is actually showing that a lot of the baby boomers and older generations are really into video now too, because again, it's a lot easier for people to access. You can just click a video and watch it and learn a lot, as opposed to reading something or downloading something. So the video demographic is really broadening in terms of who you're going to reach. And I'm going to talk about segmenting audiences a little bit later, but just think about that when you're creating these videos, that there are a lot of different kinds of people that are consuming the videos at a really high rate. So you want to maybe focus on different generations or different demographics or things like that. But Instagram TV has a little bit younger of an audience right now, just in terms of embracing the technology and using it and subscribing to channels. But I think over the next couple of years, it's going to be a lot more widely used among all demographics.
And I would recommend that if you're brand new to video, don't go straight to live streaming. Do some recorded stuff so you get comfortable being in front of the camera, and then you can move into live streaming after that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so you guys can learn about this a little bit more if you're interested in doing Instagram TV. We can talk. You can read this. It is pretty intuitive. It's its own app. But I'm going to move on to the next thing. Social listening. This is something that I've been reading a lot about. It's essentially the method of searching for your brand name, your name, industry keywords, things like that, kind of doing an in-depth search, a focused search within your kind of circle, and understanding what people are saying, seeing what people are posting, what people are saying about your brand, your company's brand, real estate or mortgage in general. And it's just a really great way to kind of get focused research and staying on top of what's going on in the trends and things like that. And it really helps you learn about your customer and learn what you can do better to engage with customers, or maybe do something a different way, identify influencers in your circle, and see who you can partner with. And then you can also learn about your competition and see what other people are doing and how you can kind of, modify your strategy and what you're putting out there based on what everyone else is doing. It's something that might seem really intuitive or obvious, you know, just to kind of be aware, but it's a lot more focused and calculated than just kind of, you know, being on the radar. There's a lot of tools that you can use now where you can filter search words and search things like that, and they will give you reports on, like, this is what so-and-so has been talking about regarding hashtag mortgage or mortgage insurance or things like that. So this is something that I think is really important to do if you're thinking that you want to kind of get a really good grasp on the consumer network, on certain demographics, or if you want to do something better in a specific area like digital marketing or things like that. There are some tools you can use called like Awario and Brand24, and these are tools that you can download and then kind of set for the week and include, like I said, keywords or your name, and then over the course of the week it'll come back and say, you know, someone mentioned you in this social media platform, and then not only will you know what's going on, but you're able to better engage with consumers that way. You can go ahead and maybe you would have missed it otherwise, but then you've established this connection with someone that you wouldn't have otherwise. Authentic content. This is something that we, Cultural Outreach, kind of talk about a lot, but it's becoming more and more known as like an actual trend, which I think is really cool. But this in general is just kind of the idea of creating content that's really yours, that's your voice, that is you know, unedited and is not cookie cutter or too mainstream, but you want to be telling your story. You want to be talking to consumers about things that they want to hear, you know, creating that conversation. If people are asking you questions, you create videos about, you know, like what Kristen mentioned earlier, what is PMI or what is escrow, creating content that's really going to build your brand with your voice and tells a story. A lot of consumers are listening to this a lot more than they have been, and they're actually, you know, weighing this in terms of who they're going to go with or the decisions that they make when they're in their purchasing decisions or choosing an agent or things like that. So being authentic in the moment and just really genuine is really important now whenever you're creating any kind of posts or videos or engaging with consumers. Marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but the stories you tell. So this is just kind of like really drives the point home. People can buy anything anywhere these days. So what's really important is the why. You know, why are you doing this? Why are you? Why should I work with you? So make sure that you think about that when you're putting yourself out there. People want to hear what you have to say, and it doesn't always have to be like a business salesy post. You know, you can post about your life and kind of infuse it with professional activities, but the whole point of social media is to kind of create your online persona. It's what, you know, it's like the handshake is what we like to say, because people will get to know you, and they can go online and you know, read about a bunch of different companies or agents, but if they connect with you in a certain way, it's going to go a lot longer. Publish consistently and be purposeful. So again, with that authenticity, a lot of people think that they need to just be posting all the time, but then that oftentimes results in inauthentic content. So you want to kind of create a schedule for yourself, but make sure that every post that you make really is impactful, has purpose, has meaning behind it. And it's okay to then maybe post a little bit less, like once or twice a week, if they're going to be really high quality over quantity. We've mentioned this a couple of times before, but there are some tools that you can use to schedule out your posts if this is something that's kind of stressful. If you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to create great stuff a couple of times a week every month? Maybe you get really creative, like in the mornings, and you use like a Thursday or Friday morning to go and create a month's worth of content, and then you can use tools like we like Hootsuite or Sprout Social. We'll write these down and send them to everyone, but these are programs or applications that you can use to schedule out your posts and create all your content, you know, at whatever frequency you like, so it doesn't have to feel so overwhelming. 4 is customer service and experience. So this kind of all goes with authenticity, I think, but a lot of the customers, this is a consumer-driven market that we're in. It's, you know, they're the ones that are driving the sales and driving the whole experience, but people are really in tune with the customer experience and you know, how they engage with you as a professional, and people are a lot more willing to switch brands if they have a bad customer experience, or if they have a really good experience with you, they're going to be more loyal and they're going to tell their friends and their family, and they'll be advocates for you as a business because people care more about this now than they ever did. So things need to flow really seamlessly. This is where the technology kind of comes into it. But if you have a conversation with someone on LinkedIn and then they message you on Instagram or something, you need to kind of be able to flow between all the different channels so that it becomes really effortless for them, and you can kind of keep track of everything, but it makes it a lot easier and a lot more of an enjoyable experience for them. So I thought this was a cool quote. If there's one thing that changes faster than technology, it's people's expectations. So technology moves super fast, but that's because people change really fast, right? So it's an era where immediacy has really become very important. People want to be replied to now. They're going to send you a message. They want a response quickly, even if it's like, I'll get back to you tomorrow. Thanks so much for letting me know. So you really need to make sure that you are on top of it, because those are the kinds of things that can make or break a deal. Consumers expect to be responded to quickly. So yeah, social media never sleeps. Unlike the days of, you know, the office hours where people came to your office and met with you, people are online, so that they might text you late at night, and maybe that's not really how you do things, but again, you can just send a quick response text and then follow up the next day. But because of social media and because we're now open all the time, you have to kind of be available to at least just communicate with your consumers whenever they are on. Micro-influencers. This is something new that I thought was really...
Wait, sorry. I don't know if it was delayed, but I just want to pause here real quick. And I think there's been a ton of information so far, and I want to see if we have any questions from the audience. I also want to, while Karen, I'll look for you to speak up on those questions, but I want to emphasize that when we're talking about expecting immediacy, that you have to remember that these are expectations of consumers that have always had immediacy from every other purchasing transaction. So it's not that we are trying to be rude or inappropriate in some way. We're just expecting that when I buy a pair of shoes from Nike.com, I can immediately chat with a customer service rep. So when I'm making the biggest financial decision ever, I expect that I can immediately talk to a service rep. So it's just we do need, I think, somewhat of our expectations to be met in some ways, but also just adjusted based on us understanding what the dynamic is. So I think that can be helpful. But Karen, do we have any questions so far?
We do, Kristen and Sarah. So we've got a comment from Chip right in the beginning, and he says, I love rebuilding together. Find a local chapter and join. So you've got another person out there that agrees with you there. And Jeff wanted to know, can you use the same video for IGTV as you can for YouTube?
That's a good question. You can, except for YouTube is in the landscape format, so it's the horizontal format, and Instagram TV is vertical. There are some apps out there that let you reformat the video so that they'll fit in both, but they're going to kind of look a little bit different, because if you have a landscape video that you're trying to transition to shape like this, it's going to put some kind of like some blocks of color maybe on the edges so that it will fit in a different space. So you can, but it's just going to require a little bit of reformatting. I
would recommend for that, if you can do both, just set up a camera that's maybe a little bit nicer, or a webcam or something that's in the obviously horizontal or the landscape format, but then have your phone set up, or someone holding your phone during any kind of event that you want to record for IGTV as well.
Okay, so Evan says that their loan officer is looking to make loans to customers who are purchasing a home. What are examples of keywords you would recommend that they research? Obviously, mortgage rates, mortgage broker, those kinds of things. Do we need to be creative with this?
Yeah, so what I found to be most successful with this, and that's a great question, going back to the social listening is what he's referring to. We are, instead of looking for mortgage rates, people are most likely not going to be on social media talking about mortgage rates, but they will be on social media saying moving to Boston, or I'm getting a new home or looking for a new home, things like that. So I would recommend doing keyword searches around that phrase, like moving to Boston, because then you can find someone talking about that and say like, hey, I have this great guide that I can, send over to you, or something that, again, sets you up as a resource, not an immediate salesperson. You're not attacking that person when you find them talking about it, but you're, using words like that to set yourself up for a conversation with them that are more holistic around home change, buying a new home or moving in your area.
Okay. So Michael wants to know if it's a good idea to prepare your video in advance before uploading it to Instagram and etc.
Sarah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it depends. Like with live streaming with Instagram stories, I don't think so. Instagram stories, people know, like I said before, that it's supposed to be spontaneous and it's kind of in the moment. So I think with, excuse me, a lot of the live streaming, there's really no need to kind of pre-production and things like that. But if you're going to do something on Instagram TV, which is kind of more of a YouTube style format and space, or if you're going to make some YouTube videos, maybe, if you're talking about setting aside time to like make sure your environment looks great and that maybe you have some ideas jotted down, or you're going to be talking with someone, spend that time to do that. But if you're at an event and you're talking with someone like another speaker or a mentor or something, that's okay to just kind of be in the moment and say like, hey, I'm here with so-and-so at this conference. So great to, meet with whoever it is. I think having the two different kinds of videos also creates a lot more of a dynamic content feed for you.
Yeah, I think that previously we had been all about authenticity and less about production value. But I do think production value has become really important, but you want to be very strategic about it, like Sarah was saying. So I would say that if you are going to do a produced video, don't do it poorly, really do a good job with that and then do the other stuff in an authentic way. But yeah, recorded videos, it's not that expensive to get a videographer to edit those videos for you, or there's so much software available. You can learn if you want to, or have an intern learn it or whatever. But yeah, I think the authenticity factor, as long as you have good sound and a pretty good environment, then it'll be even better to be just raw footage like that.
We have a couple more if you still have time.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a couple more.
Okay. Michael wanted to know, would video testimonials sent in by clients be effective to include with your own created short video?
Yeah, I think infusing that every so often is really great. We have been reading a lot about user-generated content, which was another trend that I saw in 2019 that's going to be really big. People, exactly that, using content from your network, especially if it's a review and if it looks really, if it looks good, if the production value is okay. I think having that would be a really great testament to your brand, as long as your feed's not completely made up of that. But customer reviews are still really important. People go to Yelp all the time for restaurants. People want to hear what other people have to say. They trust other consumers almost more than the brand itself because they know that it's, more authentic sometimes. So I think that's a really great thing, that if you can get a client at the end of a deal or something to record a little video about their experience with you, that would be a really cool way to include your network and your consumers in your own brand and voice.
Okay, we still have a few more, but I'll go ahead and send one more over, and then we can keep going, and we'll come back to it. Do you recommend hiring someone to handle social media posts for you?
I think that is something, it just depends on the person. We manage social media accounts for a lot of clients, but it's very much about helping them build an authentic voice too. I don't think you should ever totally outsource something. I think you should have, it can be really helpful to have someone creating content for you. And what we'll do a lot of times is send over questions to someone, have them interview on camera, and then we pull that into articles, short videos, create little posts with quotes from it. So then it's your personal voice, but you're having someone else handle all the production of it. So I think that's helpful, but also you still need to be checking in. I mean, a lot of customers are reaching out to you on Facebook Messenger, for instance, and you got to be checking that on a regular basis, and have your personal voice involved in your brand. That personal branding, I think, is so important, and your social network is extremely important. So don't completely outsource things. At least check in regularly. I would say daily, just to engage with other people's posts and see what other people are saying, respond to questions or comments and likes, and then occasionally put something that's an authentic piece of content, like you at an event or checking in somewhere. Sarah, I'll let you take it back so we can continue on.
Cool. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about micro-influencers. I was just having a conversation with someone about the whole influencer trend in general, on Instagram especially, and it's become so huge within the millennial and Gen Z world. But what's really interesting is that it's kind of starting to swing back, in that people are kind of looking at these major influencers, which is someone who's on Instagram or Facebook or something, and they have a lot of followers, and they have a lot of brand cards. They'll post things promoting a clothing brand or a restaurant or a service, and then other people who follow them will follow suit, and they become kind of an advocate for that brand. But major influencers have lots and lots of followers, and people have started to kind of wonder if they're truly authentic, because a lot of times these major influencers are getting paid a lot of money to post things for other brands and things like that. So, and it's becoming super high production value, like so much, that it's almost a little bit unrelatable. So there's this kind of new wave called micro-influencers that kind of speaks to that authentic quality of posts. So this is something that I thought was really interesting, especially within the kind of mortgage and real estate space. They are really good for smaller businesses or individual professionals and things like that, but it's a really great way to infuse user-generated content into your marketing strategy. So these people are more like community members, people within your network or within your industry, or that are connected to your industry in some way, that have a lot of followers. This particular research that I found said that they're around less than 10,000 people. So they have a little bit less of kind of like that star famedom kind of quality, which makes it a lot more authentic. They're generally a lot more engaged in whatever it is that they're promoting. They're a lot more interested, and they generally also have more knowledge on the topic. So these could be like industry experts, or I mentioned community members, but the followers of the influencers also are genuinely more interested in what they have to say, because they feel like it's a lot more believable, a lot more relatable. So that's something to think about when you're thinking about your strategy. Do it with purpose. So social impact and brand purpose is going to be super big in 2019. It's something that we really work on a lot with our clients. But again, people want to know your why. They want to know that you have maybe you're associated with the cause, or that you're part of your community, that you care about giving back, as opposed to just making a deal or making a sale. So you can really think about this in a lot of aspects of your social media strategy. whether that's with an influencer, with the videos that you post, or with partnering with local nonprofits. We do a lot of that. A lot of companies, they want to give back, but they might not know how. So if you think about things that you're passionate about, and you start reaching out to local organizations or volunteering, you can really integrate that into your social media strategy and kind of building your brand, because it's not just about showing this on social media, but people want to know that you care about your community and about making a change in the world, and that's going to go a long way with loyal followings. So with regards to nonprofit partners, make sure that you're looking for something. If you don't already have brands that you're working with or organizations that you're working with, think about what your mission is, what your professional mission is, what your personal mission is, and then think about groups that you can work with that align with that, so that it really makes sense and it can kind of, work off of each other. When you're making content, that's going to come out a lot easier. You're working with brands that kind of speak to the same sort of things that you do. Okay, next, this is kind of going into a new realm. Kristen, do you have anything you want to say about nonprofit partnership? I know this is something you're really passionate about and work a lot. We mentioned, rebuilding.
No, I would just say that the last webinar, Taylor and another woman with our organization, and I talked about this on the last webinar with National MI, and I would recommend you guys watch that. It really is an important strategy that I think so many people put on to the side, because it's just, they think of it as in a box of charitable giving, philanthropy, CRA, whatever, and it really should be integrated into your marketing in every level, including social media, and the power of tagging other people in your posts. That is they will share that content, their followers see that content. It's a great way to grow your following and your network as well.
Great. So the next thing is chatbots. Now, this is something that I was a little bit not sure about at first, to be honest, but when I did a lot more research and have been kind of utilizing these tools with people, I realized that it actually is a really interesting way to just increase your efficiency. So I think in years past, chatbots have been thought of as kind of like super robotic, very automated, but they've really increased the technology and enhanced it with a lot of AI to make them very humanized. So this is just something that you would use to kind of enhance your presence if you feel like this is something that you need. But chatbots as a technology are something that can really increase your customer engagement. They can be really personalized now to, reflect your voice and respond to users and people in a really natural way. And it offers that 24/7 response time. But that being said, this is something that you would use like as a supplement to your marketing strategy, because it's really important that you're engaging with your customers, that you're on top of what you're talking about with everyone. But this is a good way to kind of manage that if it's becoming overwhelming or you don't want to miss something. So maybe this will kind of like start the conversation, and then you can jump in and really talk to someone. But it's an interesting technology that's actually growing. So if you're interested in that, we've listed a couple here. It's pretty cool. So the next thing is short form ads. The engagement on Facebook has been down, so they have been putting a lot more ad money in Instagram. So this is something to think about when you are if you do like paid ads on social media. Right now you can do the ad kind of campaigns that go to both Instagram and Facebook, but if you're thinking about favoring one or the other, the Instagram ads are kind of what people are looking at right now. And then LinkedIn has their dynamic ads, which is something that's kind of interesting, that is different from any of the other ad platforms on social media, but it takes information and it allows you to kind of personalize your paid ads with LinkedIn data from within your network. And personalization is really key in terms of, if you are going to go towards advertisements and paid advertisements, adding that human element, that personal connective element is really important. So if you are going to do that, make it personal, try taking a selfie ad promo video. So instead of maybe, if you have an event coming up, if you're holding a financial literacy workshop or something, instead of posting an ad that might just get lost in a feed, try taking a video of yourself explaining what it is that you are trying to promote, whether it's your event, your services, or things like that. Just taking a quick, short video as opposed to an advertisement is going to go a lot longer in terms of connecting with new clients, with existing clients. People are going to see your face and then kind of like make that connection. So that's an easy way to kind of like up your ad game. And then segmenting audiences. I talked about this a little bit earlier with regards to the video demographics, but you know, all different kinds of people are looking for different things. They all have different issues or different concerns when they are trying to buy a home or something like that. So you want to think about that when you're making ads. You can't just do like a one-size-fits-all approach. So you want to look at a certain segment of an audience, whether that is, you know, you're targeting the Hispanic market, or you're looking at millennials, and you want to think about what do they want in a home buying process, or in a mortgage agent or something like that, and how can I cater this ad, this video towards them specifically. It's all about, social media is all about segmenting your audiences so that you can be really relevant. Because if you're kind of doing a blanket approach, it might not actually connect with any one demographic. So it's a lot smarter. It takes a little bit more work, but just to kind of make those, excuse me, specialized and focused ads that target one specific kind of demographic that you're going for. SEO. This was a new thing that I think is going to be huge in the next couple of years, but internet searching, you know, people are just searching for mortgage insurance or mortgage rates or things like that. That's still the #1 source of people finding information, but social media is quickly rising as what people use to like find new businesses or find products or things like that. And beyond that, it's actually becoming a lot more visual and social. So experts are saying that in the next couple of years, people are going to be using video and voice command to be searching for things, and it's going to be beyond just Google searching. So it's just kind of a really exciting, interesting time in the way that social media has really become the internet. You know, it's replaced Facebook as like a search engine. You can go on LinkedIn and search for things and search for people, and you can find what you're looking for. So just that's something to think about when you're building your brand and building your content, using keywords and having dynamic imagery, because it'll be kind of like the source of someone's search potentially. So this last section is about platform specific, new platforms, updates to existing platforms, and fun and exciting things like that. Kristen, do you want to talk about this at all?
So I just want to, I know we're going to run out of time, so this is where we're going to zoom through these emerging platforms, and then we can always respond to questions later. But I did want to see, Karen, is there like 1 or 2 questions that we can respond to now, and then we can finish up with this last section?
I think it's more about website information, so if you guys want to keep going, we can save it for the end.
Okay, yeah, and we'll follow up with a bunch of that kind of information as well. So
Great,
I'll let you
thank
keep
you.
going.
All right, let's do it. Last section. Okay, so LinkedIn achieved 145% growth in the last year, which I just thought was really interesting because people kind of think that Instagram is the big, Instagram and Facebook are still #1, but it was interesting to see that LinkedIn is growing still quite rapidly. So just don't neglect that. People kind of like overlook LinkedIn as a social platform, but they're doing a lot within the platform to kind of like up their game, increase user engagement opportunities, and it's still a really great place to grow your network and connect with people within your industry, post articles. This is where like the long form content is really useful and important. And LinkedIn is now getting on the video ad game. They have sponsored content for LinkedIn ads. So basically what this means is that instead of just like posting a video on LinkedIn, you can actually do video ads that are going to show up in people's news feed. I won't go too into detail about this. This is something that we can send you information about, but it's just another way that you can utilize video in LinkedIn that will kind of get to more people than getting lost in the feed. This is the detail about that. I'm going to kind of skip over this, and if you want to read this later and have any questions, just let us know. Instagram will still be at the top. All these other platforms that are coming out, things that are, getting better, Instagram has just really been crushing. They've got everything. They've got ads, they've got video, they've got the IGTV now. So if you want to focus on something, I would focus on this. If you're not on Instagram, then we hopefully can have answered a couple of questions to help you get there today. Our webinar next month is going to be all about Instagram. So if you want to learn more, join us next month, and we're going to talk about Instagram, up and coming social media. So this is just kind of a fun look at what's going to be out there, what people are going to be using. Don't know how popular they're going to be necessarily, but these are kind of the ones on like big tech radars. The first one being Vero. I thought this was really cool. It's an alternate to Instagram. Has a lot of sharing capabilities, but there are no advertisements. It's a really visual platform. You can share a lot of different things than just video and photos. You can share articles and movies and podcasts. It's like a multimedia sharing platform, and you can organize it in collections, kind of like if you are familiar with Pinterest, like that. What people are saying is that it's a really cool way to kind of do R&D. So if advertisements weren't a thing, you can go and really see what consumers are interested in, what the industry is doing. It's a good way to kind of like get inspiration, get some visual sparks for creativity and things like that. The second one is Anchor. I'm actually really excited about this one. It's a podcast platform. So it's all about just creating podcasts. You can host and display podcasts for free, completely free. And it just makes everything really easy to make episodes. You can do co-hosting podcasts with people from across the world. It's really cool. It's very intuitive. It's very simple. And I think podcasts isn't something that I talked about so much in this webinar, but you really want to, it's all about multimedia. Video is really important. And then if podcasts are becoming an audio segments are another way to kind of like enhance your content package. And podcasts, if you think about it, it's a great way for people to learn about you and your business while they're on the move, where they're going to work, where they're in the car. So don't discount the radio podcast world, but check out Anchor. It's very cool. And then this third one is called NewTV. It actually hasn't come out yet, but it's an interesting look at how people are consuming visual content now. It's going to be kind of like a Netflix, but it's actually only for your phone. So it's going to be in like the vertical format. It's short form video. They're not going to be like full length features, but a lot of really big TV people and media people are getting involved in this. And there's kind of, no saying where it's going to go in terms of how it's going to infuse other industries, but it's a really interesting idea of, people really just moving to mobile and to their iPads and just consuming media in these smaller and smaller formats, and that they're actually putting high production value into formats like these. So be on the lookout. This is actually not what it's going to be called. They haven't released like the real name yet, but NewTV is what the nomer is for like industry articles and things like that. All right, that is, how did we do? We're at 12:53, pretty good. Chris, you want to summarize, or do we want to start taking questions?
Yeah, I think that, Sarah, you did such a great job of going through all of this content, and I'm sure everyone is as excited as, or maybe not as excited as I am, but I think it's really interesting stuff. So hopefully you're coming away with some really practical tips. And like we said before, we can follow up with questions. I want to reiterate here that authenticity is key to all of this. And as Sarah said, multimedia, so being on multiple channels, multiple forms of communication is really key. And using video. I think all of that really comes down to storytelling. She shared a quote that I absolutely loved that was, marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but the stories that you tell. So authentic storytelling on multimedia channels is really key. So I want to run through, Sarah, if you'll click through one more slide, continue down to the next slide. So as a reminder, we have discoverim3.com where you can find a bunch of resources and tutorials, and of course follow us as well on social media. YouTube and Instagram are our newest channels, and you can contact us directly at Kristen or Sarah at culturaloutreach.com. And Sarah, you can just pull up that last slide. So we have just a couple minutes left. Karen, do we have any questions that we can address?
We have quite a few that came through. I'll give you some feedback first. Very informative presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. So good job. What are your thoughts on Amazon Alexa Flash Briefing?
Flash briefing? Sorry, go ahead.
I think, are they touching on AI, or I think we had started to go down that pathway, but I know from our perspective, all of that is going to continue to be smarter. There's so much, trying to think of, I just saw some new technology that AI, facial recognition, voice recognition, all of that is going to continue to grow really rapidly. So I don't think from a social media standpoint, there's anything really to talk about unless you know, Sarah.
Yeah, there was something that I was reading about that I didn't really include, but just like I talked about SEO a little bit, but voice search is going to become really huge. So people are going to start using things like Alexa or whatever to find businesses, and it's going to be, so you have to think about what people would ask. Like I'm thinking, like Kristen mentioned earlier, moving to Boston, what should I look for in, like, what are the best neighborhoods or something like that? And people are going to be using their smart technology to find information. So how those smart technologies sift through everything that's on the internet, including social media, is becoming really important. So I guess just thinking about how people would be using that technology to search the internet, and how you can better kind of prepare your content so that it will show up, if that makes sense.
So Scott had a couple questions. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn looking more like Facebook, and is Snapchat still a platform to utilize?
Sarah, I'll let you speak to LinkedIn, but Snapchat, people are still using it. I think it lost a lot of followers when Instagram stories came out, but I wouldn't recommend using Snapchat as a sales mechanism unless you already have a big network on there. Your exposure is way more limited. It's a lot more personal platform. Instagram is where we would recommend spending your time. Sarah, your thoughts on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think it's actually really smart that LinkedIn has started to infuse the platform with a lot more like social elements, because I think people were thinking it was kind of like boring or useless, or they weren't really sure, like, why, if I could just use Facebook, why would I use LinkedIn? So I think LinkedIn, in terms of social networking, like, it has a great messaging service. You can really connect with a lot of people. There are new videos and things like that, and like the kind of like the news feed portion that is similar to Facebook is cool. But I do think that LinkedIn has maintained its like professional industry face. So I think it's really cool that there's kind of this professional Facebook, if you will, because people are still using it to write articles, and people really look at LinkedIn as like a source for thought leadership and things like that. But if anything, I think just the social aspects of LinkedIn are just helping people connect better. So I think that's a really good thing.
That's great.
So Jennifer wants to know, is there any harm in shutting down Facebook and switching to Instagram?
Definitely there's harm. There's no, I mean, from my perspective, Sarah, maybe you would disagree, but I think anything you can do to expand your network and hold on to your connections, there's no reason to shut down Facebook at this point. Maybe down the road, maybe when we're looking at 2020, but right now people are still active on there. So I would recommend at least being present on there regularly. It wouldn't take that much extra time, but then it kind of depends on your network. Sarah, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's true. And if you really just don't want to put a lot of energy into managing Facebook, on Instagram now, you can make all of your posts post to both. So if you're posting on Instagram, you can have it set to like automatically post on Facebook. And then you can just check Facebook to see if people are messaging you and like use it more as an engagement platform. But you don't have to create like completely different content for both platforms. you can make it streamlined and just kind of like push everything out to both.
Yeah, that's not the ideal situation, but that's what I do, and
yeah,
fine.
It's still good to kind of cater it, Facebook, because it's not as visual, but if you, that is an option, and we do that a lot just because then you're also creating more content. But Facebook's a good place to post articles and kind of like create conversation platforms. So maybe don't get off Facebook just yet.
Okay, well, I show top of the hour, and unfortunately we had 5 or 6 questions that we didn't get to. So Kristen and Sarah will follow up with those, and we'll share those out tomorrow. So Sarah and Kristen, thank you so very much. Great information as always. And everyone have happy holidays, and join us in 2019.
Thank you, guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thanks, Karen.